Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Outdoor Hospitality Weekly. Today we're joined by Joel Holland, the founder and CEO of Harvest Host, a groundbreaking membership network that's prioritizing how RV travelers experience America. Under Joel's leadership, Harvest Host has grown to offer over 5,000 unique overnight stays at places like wineries, breweries, farms, museums, and just some really cool locations across the US and Canada. Before imagining the RV travel landscape, Joel really made his mark in the digital world, founding what would be today known as Storyblocks. He built this into one of the world's leading subscription software-based digital media companies. In 2018, Joel acquired Harvest Host and has since transformed it into a small community into one of the largest, fastest-growing outdoor hospitality companies in North America. Since then, Harvest Host family has expanded to include other brands like Camper's Card, Camp Scanner, Brit Stops, and most recently, with the purchase of Escapees RV Club. Joel is a serial entrepreneur, an outdoor enthusiast, and has a really unique perspective on how tech, tourism, and outdoor hospitality intersect our industry. Joel, thank you so very much for being here with us.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Thanks, Matt. Great intro. You're like a hype guy. I'm all fired up. I can't give credit, by the way, for founding Harvest Host. Don and Kim Green founded it.
Right.
And that's
you
awesome.
Just acquired it in 2018.
I bought it in 2018 because I like to say I loved the company so much I bought it, right? And it's been really fun growing it over the last 6 years. But yeah, God bless them for starting it, because to get the two-sided platform going, that's hard, right? To say to wineries and breweries, hey, we have this concept, we have no members yet. And to say to members, we need you to join, but we have nowhere to stay yet. That's tough. So they do the hard part. I just simply came in, brought some technology to it. We have a great team and we've grown it. And so that's been the best part. As an RVer, I am selfishly a big fan of what we've done, because we now have places I can stay everywhere. It's awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah. And Joel, like I said, we're both super excited to talk with you. You know, you and I have had the pleasure of doing a couple podcast interviews together, and we've known each other for a few years now, but it's been a bit. There's some exciting changes, right, with Escapees, and I'm sure some stuff on the state of the market that we'll get into today. But this time I have the pleasure of being joined by Matt Whittemore, my co-host as always. And Matt's got sort of a unique perspective on where he sits in the industry and the real estate side of things, and really just the state of the market and how you fit in. So yeah, I know you kind of gave a little bit of a brief introduction there about Harvest Host, but for somebody who maybe out of my intro is still a little bit confused on what Harvest Host is and how you intersect with this RV and outdoor hospitality space, just give people a short sense of what you guys do and what you're known for.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, Harvest Host, very simple business, but I think pretty profound. It's a membership club for RVers. You join Harvest Hosts and you can then stay at over 5,300 really, really cool small businesses all over the country. Wineries, breweries, golf courses, distilleries, museums, attractions, just really, really fun places, right? It's a way to add a little spice to the RV journey. We're not trying to replace campgrounds. We are supplementing and saying, hey, like, go, do your normal thing and then throw a winery in there every once in a while. Like, how fun is it to pull up to a winery, park in the vines, go do a tasting, and then go to sleep, drive nowhere, right? It's just a really fun addition to the RV lifestyle. And yeah, we now have over 5,300 locations in Harvest Hosts, with Boondockers Welcome, which is a company that we bought a couple years ago in Canada. We have another 3,000 locations, not just in Canada, but also US, personal properties. So that's more of a community-driven program. You mentioned Escapees. So Escapees is like a truly remarkable community that's been around for over 40 years.
Oh my gosh, it's a staple in that RV community. Yeah,
totally. It's a staple. It's an absolute staple. And to me, they define community. And Harvest Host has always been camping. And to me, like the unique camping. Now we have camping and community. And that's something I've always wanted, because RVers they're community creatures. We love connecting with other people. Harvest Hosts did a great job of connecting us with the small businesses, but now we're going to start trying to connect our members with each other at things like Escapade and Bash and all these different state chapters and rallies that go on with Escapade or with Escapees. So yeah, we're in a really fun place in the company's life cycle.
And Joel, your guys' business model is really unique in the sense that I would say there aren't really anybody else doing what you do. At least there's nobody that comes to mind at the same level of scale and tech enablement and sort of the amount of inventory that you have. You kind of alluded to as you purchased the property or purchased the company in 2018 and have kind of expanded upon that model. Why do you think that nobody else has really been able to replicate that? And what really makes the Harvest Toast relationship that you have with your campers and customers unique in this space?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're category building, which is tough, right? Like when you have a business that's building, that's creating a new thing, you're trailblazing a bit, and that's harder, right? So when you look at our 5,000 Harvest Host locations, most of them have never before us had any exposure to RVers. They didn't really like understand that was a thing. So we had to educate them on, hey, there's this really cool world of RVers. They're friendly. They spend money. They want to come support you. So it's a tough thing to get going, right? It took Don and Kim 9 years to get the first 600 locations before I came in. And then it took us another 5 years to get to where we are now with 5,000. But that took building a large team and spending millions of dollars. So, long story short, it's just not easy. But the cool thing now is we're past that tipping point where we have a good reputation, because it's a great thing for the businesses we work with. It's a great thing for RVers because it just makes it more interesting. Part of your lifestyle is much more fun on the road. So now it's just a matter of continuing to grow it. But and to Matt's point, I don't consider us disruptors because I don't think we're really disrupting anything. I try to look at us as growing the RV pie, right? Like our members from our surveying spend more nights on the road every year because they're in our program. And so we're not stealing from anyone. We're just trying to grow stuff.
It's a really good point there.
I was going to say,
go ahead,
Matt.
No, I think that's a really fantastic point. I mean, we all experience that there's this incredible demand for RV spaces. Supply is dwindling in some places. There's some development in other places, but it's been a story of demand, outpacing supply. So it's a really, really interesting way to put it. I mean, totally understand and hear you, love the collaborative approach. Have you experienced any kind of, unwelcome vibes from the RV community? Do people perceive Harvest Hosts as that disruptor, and you kind of feel like you have to educate people as to your philosophy and your approach?
I think initially there was certainly some hesitation from campground owners, right? Like, is this group going to come in and try to steal campground nights? But, from day one, I've always said that that's not what we're trying to do. And I use myself as an example. Like, I'm like most Harvest Host members. I'll spend, 4 to 10 nights a year in Harvest Host locations and another like 60 to 90 in campgrounds. Our average members are spending 4 nights a year at Harvest Host and another 30 plus at campgrounds. And so we're not taking nights, we're actually adding them. And for campgrounds around Harvest Host locations, what they quickly find is they get more business when we're close to them, because Harvest Host for the most part is boondocking. And so, you're going and you're not getting the full hookup situation. So afterwards or before, you go to a traditional campground and plug in and dump and this and that. So yes, there was some apprehension at first. I feel like we've done a good job getting through that now. We're now a member of a lot of the state campground associations, and we show up and we talk and like we say, hey, we're here. We're not invisible. We're not the enemy. We tried to also, I think, make a good inroads with the Campers Card program. We now have over 1,000 campgrounds that are part of our campground program, where we offer our members discounts. It's like Good Sam Club or KOA, except for we don't charge campgrounds for it. So free program for campgrounds. And then our members drive traffic to those campgrounds in our program. And I'm pretty excited. One of the things we're going to push live for next travel season is just making Campers Card, change the name to Campground Partners. We're just making it available to every member. So to date, as a test, we have like 6,000 Campers Card members. Well, next year there's going to be 250,000, and that's 250,000 RVers who are now spending over $500 million a year in campgrounds. These campgrounds are going to start seeing a lot of traffic from our users, and we're not charging them anything. So yeah, we try to have a really good relationship.
I love that, especially from me with the marketing background, right? It's like you guys have an incredibly large audience for activation, and to just be able to serve that up to members is incredible. one of the things that you alluded to, Joel, was I always say if you're stealing business from anybody, it's from like a Walmart parking lot or
Yeah,
somebody staying at a gas station in an unsafe location where
yeah,
mom and the kids don't feel safe. Like, I would much rather stay at a cool spot and like go grab dinner and a glass of wine and then go back in my RV, rest
totally.
for the night, and be back on the road. And I think
It,
like if we're really talking about anybody getting nights stolen, like that's the pull of the pie where I think most people can see that and
yep.
recognize that pain point. But as
And
I kind of
totally. I've
go ahead,
always said that too, by the way. Like our competition and our enemy is the Walmart parking lot. And I use them, but it's like not just Walmart, it's Cracker
right,
Barrel, it's rest stops, it's
right,
just like truck stops, places that are not desirable, right? There's nothing wrong with Walmart. I love
and
Walmart.
not
I
and
don't
not
want to
built
stay in the
for
parking lot.
RVers,
That's
right?
right.
It's not,
Bright lights,
yeah,
like you're a little unsettled, dreading the 3 a.m. knock. Like, wouldn't it be nice to go somewhere where you're going to be like safe, secure, and no one's going to bother you? It's funny, you can't see in my snow village behind me here, but like that's a little Harvest Host brewery. Over here, out of frame, I've got a Walmart with Cousin Eddie in front and a flipped over RV. Like
That's amazing.
that's my enemy.
Yeah.
I love
I,
that. As we kind of just alluded to, right? The Harvest Host Network includes everything from farms to ranches, museums, breweries, wineries. How do you really go about identifying and evaluating what those new locations look like and who ultimately fits as a Harvest Host location?
Yeah, so we have an amazing host recruiting team. And so there's a team of like 10 people who some run marketing and events. So they go to like the bison ranch get-togethers, the water park associations, the alpaca associations. Turns out there's associations for everything. So it's fun and we're members of all of them. We go, we present, put up booths. So there's the in-person activation, and then we have our team who calls wineries and calls breweries, and they're like, "Hey, like, have you heard of this program? We think you'd be a great fit." Some of that's like members make suggestions. Those are the first ones we call. Others are us reaching out because we think they're a good fit. But there is a vetting process. Like we make sure that they have a good rating on social media, right? Like Yelp, whatever it is, Trustpilot. We look through and say like, is this business legit? Then we jump on Google Earth and make sure like it looks like a place that I'd want to stay, right? Or any of our members would want to stay. And that it looks like there's an easy way to get there. That's not going to be like crazy off-roading, low branches, this and that. So the team these days is really focused on quality over quantity. We're adding 100 to 200 hosts a month. So it is still quite a lot of quantity, but we're really focused on getting people closer to the highways and byways where RVers are already traveling, and in hot spots where we don't feel like we have enough coverage around national parks, in some of the Rocky Mountain regions, down south in Florida and other places where the snowbirds are, going. So they're really focused on filling the map. So it's not just about adding more pens, it's about really good coverage in the areas that RVers are going.
Yeah, I
question
love
for you,
that.
Joel. Question for you, Joel. Have you considered, similar to what Loves has come up with, have you thought about any larger locations, maybe 10 sites, keeping with the brand of spread out and not traditional crammed in camping experience? Have you looked at developing your own locations or buying your own locations or trying to grab scale in any particular location, anything like that?
No, it's an interesting question. That's never been my interest. I think that we kind of sit squarely as the connector, right? We want to be the platform that brings the RVers and the businesses together. I like being asset light. So the idea of actually having heavy assets like land and property and having to operate, it's not my expertise. So I wouldn't do it well. I'll leave that to the experts.
Speaking
Yeah, I
of
love
that,
that.
I think that's a really good segue. It's been a crazy market for campground acquisitions, private equity coming into the space. We actually had some news today, this morning, about Marriott International acquiring now Postcard Cabins, formerly Getaway House. You've been had a front row seat to this market, seeing how it's changing and consolidating, and the rise of glamping and all that. What are your thoughts on that news?
Yeah, no, and it's you guys are the ones that educated me on the news. I missed it. I was out skiing and I missed it. But um, now that I know about it, and I haven't looked much into it, but I will say, like, I think it's a good thing. I don't mean to me when big brands, and Marriott has a great reputation. They have a lot of great hotels, a lot of great brands like Ritz-Carlton, et cetera. If they're interested in coming into our outdoor recreation space, that's a good sign. And I said it earlier, like if they were running away from us, I'd be a little more worried. But instead, they're running towards us, and they're saying like, we think that there's staying power in this whole outdoor rec thing. We think that people clearly they think that glamping and cabins and this like concept of getting back to nature is sticking around and not going away. That's great. Wonderful.
Love it.
And Joel, looking forward kind of into the future, how do you see RV travel, this sort of experiential tourism for younger folks, right? Like all of us are fairly young that are talking here. Most of us would probably prefer, like you did today, being out in nature, doing experiences like skiing or hiking or fishing, and really leaning into the interests that we have. How do you see RV travel and Harvest Toast really positioning itself well within a lot of those trends that younger folks are seeking?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the data is pretty clear now that younger generations prefer experiences over stuff, and that's pretty cool. And it doesn't seem like that's just a flash in the pan trend. So when you think about experiences, road travel is one of the best ways to get to most experiences, right? To get to any of our national parks or state parks or any of the fun activities we do, the roads are the best way to get there. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot more young people come into the space, including young families. So we're trying to really push on that. So a lot of our advertising now, we have a whole messaging section targeting young families, basically saying, hey, if you got kids, you got to come stay in an alpaca farm, right? Like you got to show them all these amazing working farms we have. It's a blast. And so we're trying to really like increase awareness on that front, because I think that hopefully the days of like RVing being seen as a tired thing that like, a certain demographic does only, like it's not true. Like everybody RVs.
And I guess speaking to that point, right, you touch on a lot of different interest within the partner locations, right? From people who want that sort of craft brew and wine experience. We just hit on kind of the families with the alpaca farm. Are there any sort of missing interest graphs that you guys look at as wholes where you're trying to sort of carve out new destinations, or what are you seeing as far as those supporting outdoor activities? I know KOA and others have put out some good reports on the type of activities that people do when they go camping, right? And the type of correlation that has. Are you seeing that, and what kind of gaps, if any, might exist for you?
Well, I think we could have more locations near the big national and state parks. And
Right.
and it's not necessarily for lack of trying. It's hard. Some of those places just don't have a lot of operating businesses close to them. But I do think that the data is also clear there. COVID pulled a lot of people into the parks, and they're not just going away. Like going to parks is a thing now, because I think people like refound the love for that. And so that's one of the areas our team focuses on when it comes to the quality of host. It's finding more places around these popular destinations. We can always do better there. I mean, there's just not enough.
Yeah, I'm going to switch gears here a little bit, and we touched on this slightly at the beginning, the Escapees acquisition, and this is something that has happened, I think, since we last talked, and has really been, kind of I guess I would call it an under the radar acquisition. That even some people I still tell this to, they're like, wait a minute, Harvest Toast is kind of part of that world now. Walk me through the journey of kind of getting to that point and making that acquisition, and what that transition has meant for the Harvest Toast family and this new demographic, if you will, with this community and really massive events-driven business. What has that meant to the Harvest Toast family, and walk me through how you got to that point?
Yeah, totally. So I've been an Escapees member for years. And so that was kind of like, I knew about the brand. I'd been to Escapade. I enjoy that. And I enjoy the, in-person community stuff. And so I, got to know Travis and Mel and have known them for years. And we would catch up every once in a while. And I'd always kind of say the same thing. Hey, like, love what you're doing. If you ever have any, if you're ever going to do anything, sell this thing, call me. and eventually the timing was right. Like they were ready to, to focus on mail servicing and campgrounds and the things that they enjoyed. The membership part was, they were ready to let that part go. And I was like, great. Like that's what we do. Like that's our bread and butter. So the timing was right. The brand was great. Like I only buy brands that are awesome and that people love. And so far, and this is probably why it's kind of under the radar, we just haven't done much. We haven't like shaken the boat, rocked the boat or anything. And that was our promise, was like, let's buy them and then do nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's been around longer than I've been alive. It doesn't make sense for me to come in and try to change everything overnight. That's silly. So the goal at first was like, let's improve the technology where it needs improvement, right? So we put a new ticketing system in place. It's a lot easier to buy tickets to events now. There were some clear places. And by the way, we brought 16 employees over. And we asked the employees, like, where would you invest, money and resources first to like make things easier for you and members? And we're in the process of talking to members and asking the same question, like, where would you invest more resources in things like Escapade? And that's fun. So like, I'm not trying to make any changes at first. I'm just trying to make improvements. And then over time, we'll get to know, really get to know the product. And then hopefully make the two really come together more closely. And my dream is that we have now camping and community, so that as a member of Harvest Hosts, in one way or another, hopefully you're a member of both, and we're figuring all that out. But sometimes you want to stay somewhere and sometimes you want to go to an event, and that your membership means more than just staying at wineries or just going to Escapade. You can now do both. And that's what this type of adventure does. They want to see people in person and they want to stay some cool places. So to me, it was like a very logical combination. And coming into the next travel season is when we're going to really start to like make it better. It's gonna be great.
Love it.
I wanted to ask you sorry, Matt, go ahead if you want to jump in.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I'm a member myself, and I became a member. I was looking at going to 2 weddings that were a few hours apart, 2 weeks apart, and they were similar locations. So I was gonna have to fly down, get a hotel, fly back, fly down again, get another hotel, and I was like, why don't I just RV down? I'm an RVer. I honestly became an RVer after I became a campground owner. Was more of a seasonal RVer. I bought an RV that was at my campground that stayed in the same site, and then as of last season, I got a Class C, and I did a whole big month-long road trip. And I'm the kind of RVer that doesn't want to see other RVs. I want to camp. And I don't want anyone else camping next to me. Like, I want to be alone in the woods. I want to see some wildlife. I want to see a stream or a mountainside or whatever. And I feel like I'm not alone in that. I mean, I'm going to be 34 soon. I feel like I fall in that younger, kind of newer demographic of camping where, like, I don't want to pull through site. Yeah, it's more convenient to have a pull through site, but I don't really want that. I want it to take me an hour to back into the site. I want it to be like a long driveway and not see anyone else out there. Do you feel like that's kind of the new way? Do you see that a lot in your business? With kind of want to be alone out there and not have the pull through sites jammed in, 10 an acre or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's funny. Like, I always ask people, especially when they're buying a new RV, I'm like, in your mind, what's the picture? What are you envisioning as your like perfect camping trip? And typically what comes to mind is like your rig in the woods or on the stream. It's quiet. It's camping, right? Like, you would never think of tent camping. Like, I can't wait to go put my tent 5 feet away from somebody else and have like 400 people around me, right? That's a festival, right? Like usually like you're looking for solitude. But not always, right? Like that's what's kind of cool about RVing, is like sometimes I do like going to NASCAR races and F1 races and like getting packed in, the energy's high, right? Like, I like Escapade for that reason. The energy's high and there's a lot of people. And then sometimes I want to go be on a stream alone. And so I think that's where just having like multiple tools in your tool chest works. And that's how I've always described Harvest Host. Like, we're just a tool that every RVer should have, so that when you want the break and you want to go get some solitude, bang. And when you're ready for some more like activity, go do something different.
Love it.
And Joel, talking about some of the other tools in your tool belt, some of the kind of, I would say, less covered members of the Harvest Host family I wanted to ask you about, and that would be kind of Brit Stops, right? I often refer to it as Harvest Host, but for the UK. And then Camp Scanner, which really right, is covering state parks, national parks, kind of the public offering. Can you just give people a sense of one, how those are going and how those fit into the overall market? It's nice to really talk about those sides of the industry. I think for a lot of people in Matt and I's audience is, one, we don't talk about Europe enough and sort of the differences between camping there and what it means and camping here in the US and Canada. And then really the national and state park side is something that we as private park operators and probably most RVers are accustomed to. But again, Matt and I as private RV park operators, we don't often think about how they fit into the landscape. So
Yep.
Yeah, some thoughts for you on Brit Stops and Camp Scanner would be great.
Totally. Yeah. So yeah, Brit Stops was an opportunistic purchase. We got to know all the operators of Harvest Host like models in other countries. And the United Kingdom, is very similar to the United States in a lot of ways. And specifically the language thing helps a lot. So we use more Z's than S's, but that's about it. Like, and so we got to know that team over there, loved the concept, saw an opportunity to improve the technology because they were just book based. They didn't have an app or website. And so we said, all right, this is, we can come in and actually improve this and then try our hand at marketing and advertising to increase it. And that's a big part of our playbook. So it was an experiment for us. It was the first time we truly, like we bought a company in Canada, but Canada and US are very similar. So UK was our first truly international experience. And it's been a really cool experiment. Like we're a couple years in now and we've completely gotten rid of a physical book. It's all digital. It's a great app. We've added more locations and it's a great product. And we have grown, we've grown the membership base. So it's been a good experience and we're trying to figure out where do we go next on the European front? But that was our first dip the toes. And then for Camp Scanner, this was it's really a tool, right? To help you get into sold out state and national parks. It works really well, by the way. Like you should try it sometime. I'm always blown away. Like pick a place like Yosemite that's impossible to get into, throw a scan up. You'll get in like the next day. And I did this. We went to Teton National Park in August. There's Coulter Bay RV Park is like one of the few national parks that has hookups, full hookups in the park. Place is sold out like the day it hits the market. Well, I put up scans and got spots for multiple nights for me and my in-laws, both of us.
Wow.
So what you learn is that a lot of people make reservations in these state national parks and then cancel them. There's tons of cancellations. But unless you're like sitting there just refreshing this thing, you're never going to find them. And all Camp Scanner does is just text you real quick and says, hey, Matt, Alex, like a spot just opened up per your thing, 3 nights, these dates, this length, and you click, takes you right to the booking spot page on their site. It's a great tool. So
Incredible.
yeah, it's neat. And there's other tools like it, like Camp Nav and others. Like it's not unique, but it works. And so we built it because members wanted it. And we're going to find a way to get it to more members. I think that is the short answer. Like I want to get more members on it, using it so they can get some cool experiences from it.
And I have to ask too, as we wrap up, obviously we just went through kind of a whole bunch of parts of the family. What comes next? You touched on sort of European expansion. Where does Harvest Host go? What's kind of next on your radar? How do you look at the state of the industry and over the next decade? Where does it all end up?
Yeah, great question. So we spent a lot of this year doing what I would say is like product-led improvement, like product growth. And we listened to what members asked for and just built a lot of stuff. So this is a year of building. Next year, we'll still be building, but it's going to be a big year of like more awareness for Harvest Hosts. And we're going to start doing some more awareness campaigns, like really trying to broaden the numbers of number of RVers that know about us, because we have 250,000 members now. They're awesome, but I think millions of people should be using Harvest Hosts. Like I just don't see any reason why they wouldn't. And I think that it comes down to just us. We haven't done a great job telling the story right. Like a lot of people use us and that's great and they love us. A lot of people have heard about us and are like, one day I want to try it. Well, I want them to try it next year, because once people use Harvest Host and have tried it, like they fall in love with it because it's a really cool program. So that's kind of how I see next year is like, let's broaden the awareness and see what happens. And I think we're going to, see continued growth.
Awesome. Matt, anything as we wrap up?
I don't think so, Joel. This is a lot of fun. Learned a lot. Love what you're doing there. So we'll stay tuned, and maybe I'll take a trip south and find myself at a Harvest Host someday soon. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, Joel, thanks again for taking the time. Always enjoyed the conversation, and yeah, glad you were able to jump on and connect with us today. Well, thanks everyone. I'm Alex Burkett here with Matt Whittemore. Thanks for listening to another episode of Outdoor Hospitality Weekly, and we'll see you back here soon for another great conversation. Thanks, guys.